All right, let's go ahead and get into this breakdown of what's going on at Binance.
Hey guys, it's Sasha. Binance is in trouble and it seems to be going from bad to worse for the world's biggest crypto exchange. The SEC is going in for an epic smackdown and there is going to be blood in the streets. Public trust in Binance was already low after the only auditor who would come within a barge pole of Binance Mazars published a report into Binance's finances a few weeks ago and then deleted it with no explanation. Well, I think the no explanation bit is explanation enough. If your auditor deletes the report they made saying your finances are all good, then, well, where there's smoke, there's fire. Not that it wasn't completely obvious before, but now the US Securities and Exchange Commission has turned up, finally. And the SEC wants to put Binance on a stick and parade the smelly, decaying corpse in front of the entire town. The SEC has just come out and banned the issuance of new BUSD tokens. And I am going to explain exactly how bad this is and what the next steps by the SEC are likely to be, because make no mistake, this is step one of a story that will require a giant bag of popcorn as it unfolds over the coming months and years. Now, don't make the naive mistake of thinking that BUSD token has absolutely anything to do at all with Binance. No, it has exactly nothing to do with Binance whatsoever. Of course, the cynic in you might think that there is...
Recordings just got better. Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard. I'm so excited to announce that
a possibility that
my man's is making money. You can't even hate on him. You know what I'm saying? Anytime you see an ad, it's like, hey man, you didn't cross that threshold. You feel me? And if you're delivering people some good information, you know, we all got to pay bills.
BUSD is a token that is completely and totally controlled by Binance, but put under the umbrella of a random company called Paxos based in New York. And you could suppose that perhaps the SEC thinks so as well and is now giving Binance a giant fuck-off roundhouse kick to the face. But of course, that is completely, utterly not the case at all. BUSD stands for Binance USD, and of course the word Binance in there means it has absolutely no legal or any other real affiliation to Binance whatsoever. In fact, if you go on the Paxos website, it says that BUSD is a Binance brand.
Well, it's always good to have you in here, Si, my brother. Always good. And shit, you got some skills I do not have because I am not a handyman at all. You feel me? That's it, man. I'm telling you, man. People get too caught up in what they don't have and what they can't do. But it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's every time I be meeting so many people, and it's like, oh, I'm great at this and I'm great at that, and I'm like, oh, I suck at all of those things. That's fucking cool. You know what I'm saying? That's why we all need each other, man. We all need one another. But it's good to have you here.
Branded stablecoin issued by Paxos Trust Company. And of course, a Binance branded stablecoin is not the same thing at all as a Binance owned stablecoin. There is a big distinction, right? Paxos just licensed the Binance brand, but Binance has nothing to do with this whatsoever, which is probably why this other page on the Paxos website looks like this. And it says Binance USD is Binance's stablecoin and is issued in partnership with Paxos Trust Company. So yeah, until it became clear that the SEC is going to come and squeeze Binance's balls so hard that blood will start pouring out of CZ's eyes, they seem to not care about blatantly explaining that this token was in fact Binance's stablecoin. And of course, the moment that the news broke about the SEC preparing to take Binance down, CZ, the guy who runs that shop, went on a Twitter spree to highlight that, of course, BUSD is technically not issued by Binance and has no relation whatsoever to Binance. No. Now, here is the actual notice that the news...
See, and that right there. And we're going to go to an article after this video, but that right there is what kills me when people say stuff like, we don't want regulation in the crypto market. That's why we created Bitcoin, and that's why cryptocurrency was created in the first place, which is true in terms of the ultimate vision. But if you don't want regulation, then you have to forever kiss platforms like Binance, FTX, anything like that, even Coinbase, which Coinbase is the most regulated platform. I believe so. Let me double check that. But I'm pretty sure Coinbase is regulated by American regulators, the SEC, and things like that, and they don't have these type of issues. So let me double check that real quick. I'm pretty sure that's right. Yes, it is. That it is Coinbase. Um, and they've had issues themselves, don't get me wrong, but they don't have the same type of problems that Binance and FTX have because they're being watched. You know what I'm saying? So like, again, the problem with BUSD, Binance USD, which was the token created by Binance, and then you have Binance US, which isn't technically associated with the main Binance company, but y'all are sending all this money back and forth to each other. And then you have the management and executives in Binance US saying, oh, well, we weren't aware of these exchanges. So, and then whenever you confront CZ about that, he'll just say, oh, that's just FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They're just haters. Don't listen to them. You know what I'm saying? But again, again, in the article that we're going to go to next, it's like, I fear that regulation is going to bring us down. Like, you motherfuckers are bringing yourselves down. You don't need help bringing yourself down. Y'all do this shit by scamming people left and right and pulling the rugs. You feel me? Destroying your liquidity pools that you're not supposed to touch. But you don't want to be regulated because if you are regulated, you won't be able to pocket as much money. I mean, it's just as simple as that. But again, what he's explaining right here is just like, okay, well, if Binance USD isn't the currency, isn't the crypto coin, the token of Binance, then y'all can't just conveniently decide when that is and isn't the case. You see what I'm saying? And he wouldn't be making this video if it really wasn't messed up, because like, I like his content. I really don't have anything like bad to say about any of his analysis, but he's definitely like more like, for instance, like he really likes Tesla stock and he makes fun of people going after it. And the points he makes sense because he'll like remove Elon Musk from the equation, but he's not removed from the. So again, like for someone like him to be saying this, then it has to be just like clear, because he often sees hope in things. He tells people to because he's an investor. He works in finance. You feel me? Like he's not some fucking progressive liberal motherfucker. That's not who he is. So, again, Binance is going to go down at some point.
York Department of Financial Services posted about Binance USD. The reason they're posting this because they're technically the regulator here. The SEC does not have jurisdiction. So you might read between the lines as to who's actually doing what. Paxos is a limited purpose trust company under the supervision of the New York State Department of Financial Services. DFS has ordered Paxos to cease minting Paxos issued BUSD as a result of several unresolved issues related to Paxos's oversight of its relationship with Binance in regard to Paxos issued BUSD. In response, on February 13th, 2023, Paxos notified customers of its intent to end its relationship with Binance for BUSD. So right in the opening paragraph, it is patently clear. It could not be more clear what the actual deal is. Nobody cares about Paxos. Nobody at all gives a shit about that company. This is a hit on Binance. This is a hit on a company that issues this Binance token. And Binance, of course, has no formal HQ, lives mysteriously in the cloud and the ether, and no geographical jurisdiction whatsoever. So the first jab is coming at Paxos. By the way, Paxos issue a basically identical stablecoin, which is also pegged to the dollar, called USDP. They have a page that shows what the difference between BUSD and USDP is, and it has no differences whatsoever on it. And of course, this notice doesn't give a shit about USDP, doesn't even mention it, because this hit is not on the principal, it is not on Paxos. This is a hit on Binance and whatever's related to Binance. The department is monitoring Paxos closely to verify that the company can facilitate redemptions in an orderly fashion, subject to enhanced risk-based compliance protocols. So the authorities want to make sure that Paxos is not full of shit like FTX, BlockFi, and all these other guys, and that the money is really there like they keep showing every month, kept in cash and cash-like instruments, instead of, a giant chunk of it maybe mysteriously going missing like what we've seen before. At the moment, though, there is no reason to believe it's not there. They do get audited apparently every month, but it sounds like, based on this statement, that maybe the SEC ain't so sure. It is important to note that the department authorized Paxos to issue BUSD on the Ethereum.
And keep in mind, the company that gotta look up the company's name. that audited them didn't do a real audit. And then once they got heat for it, they pulled back and said, we're not going to audit any more crypto exchange platforms. Hold on, let me get the name of that company, because I don't want to say anything wrong. Mazars, M-A-Z-A-R-S. That was the company. And again, I wanted to be sure about that because I'm going to post this video. So, but again, Mazars, what they did is they basically, and within the audit papers, they said, it literally said, which we covered, this is not a real audit. It literally said that. All it was they asked Binance to give them papers that showed what they have, which isn't a real audit, because you could just write and say anything you want. And then after that, like they were getting scrutinized for it, they were like, why are we risking our reputation on this shit? And they backed out.
Blockchain. The department has not authorized Binance Peg BUSD on any blockchain, and Binance Peg BUSD is not issued by Paxos. There is currently no restriction on the listing or exchange in New York of existing Paxos issued BUSD by DFS licensed entities. I love this bit. This is a massive swing at Binance. They are saying that the official BUSD that is issued on the Ethereum blockchain is the bit that was authorized and allowed initially by the New York DFS, but with restrictions. And here's the thing. According to the latest breakdown from Paxos, there is around $15.5 billion tied up in BUSD. I am guessing this number is going down fast right now. And based on this table from Ledger Insights, almost all of that, $13.5 billion, just so happens to sit in these 7 wallets owned and controlled by Binance.
See, again, BUSD is not Binance's, except all of it is in Binance's wallets. Again, this is why they don't want further regulation. This is why, because it's not hard to see this shit, because that's one of the beautiful things about blockchain technology. You can't hide. And everything that you do, not only does it get recorded, but it's there. Like it's permanently there. You can't even shuffle it up, which is great. But yeah, if we do more regulation, stuff like this just simply won't happen.
What a coincidence. And Binance, of course.
Let's explore your future with Udemy. Programming websites, design.
Issue BUSD on their own BNB chain as well and control almost all of the supply of the original token in their wallets. And the regulators have no oversight and no ability to enforce anything on those non-Ethereum BUSD versions, or even on what Binance goes and does and how they operate. It's a bit like the bank giving you a loan of $1 million and you have to sign a piece of paper to agree not to use it for anything nefarious. It's $1 million, and you agree that the bank can come and check on what's happening with that money. They can go and look at that $1 million at any time. And then the very next day, you go and take that entire $1 million and exchange it in a bank for euros. Then you go and use those euros to do a whole bunch of illegal shit. I don't know, maybe go and do some drug dealing, commit a genocide or two, I don't know, do some people trafficking. And when the regulator comes and asks you what you're doing with that $1 million, you tell them it's sat there in the bank when you exchanged it for the euros. And it is none of the bank's business as to what it is that you went and did with those euros. The rest of this notice really just explains that all holders of BUSD should be able to get their dollars back one-to-one, and Paxos better not do a runner. They literally say the same thing over and over in different words. And of course, because Paxos is dirty as fuck, they have interpreted this notice as giving customers 1 year to exchange their BUSD back into dollars. BUSD will remain fully supported by Paxos and redeemable to onboarded customers through at least February 20.
So then basically you wasted everything you ever put into it.
2024. Now, I am not sure what they think is going to happen after February 2024. I somehow think that the US authorities will not look very kindly on them just appropriating all of the money that doesn't get exchanged back into dollars in the next year. But this statement from from Paxos does sound like a thinly veiled threat to do exactly that. Now, at the same time, It sounds like the SEC is trying to figure out how they can get in the fight directly, not through a third party, because they would very much like to give Binance a big smacking, it seems. So the problem is that Binance's opaque structure means that they're not sitting directly under the SEC's jurisdiction. So of course, the SEC has gone down the same route and is trying to hit Paxos too. In a separate press release, Paxos said that they received a Wells notice from the SEC on February 3rd. And apparently this notice said that the SEC is considering taking Paxos to court because BUSD is a security and Paxos never registered it as a security. If this does happen and the SEC does sue Paxos, this will be probably the case law that will determine what happens with all the other stable coins as well. The truth is, at least BUSD is.
And why do you think that they don't register themselves as securities exchange platforms or real financial institutions? Because if they did, they would have to be watched. And if you're being watched, you can't fucking scam people.
Sort of based in the US and is kind of regulated. There are way worse stable coins, way murkier stable coins out there. Shit like Tether that is dirtier than a stripper taking a mud bath. But the SEC doesn't have a way of going after those guys because they have no US presence at all. So they picked on the one stable coin that they can go and do a smackdown on. BUSD. The court case will come down to whether the technical definition of a security includes crypto stablecoins. And all the crypto bros are up in arms saying that crypto falls outside all regulation. Gary Gensler and the SEC can go and do one. But when it comes to stablecoins, they may actually be right. The 1933 Securities Act and the 1934 Securities Exchange Act have a pretty broad definition of what is a security. It could be any note, stock, treasury, bond, blah, blah, blah. The list just goes on and on. It can be pretty much anything. And so in the 90 years since that definition turned up, the US courts have used the Howey test to decide if something is an investable security. And the Howey test being named after the 1946 Supreme Court case called SEC versus W.J. Howey Co. And that test says that to qualify as an investment security, an asset has to satisfy 4 criteria. The original 4 criteria from the case, they slightly changed the wording on these since then, were the existence of an investment contract, the formation of a common enterprise, a promise of profits by the issuer, and the use of a third party to promote the offering. Now, stablecoins do satisfy 3 of those things. There is a contract, and you are technically making an investment when you go and buy the stablecoin. There is a common enterprise, and you as the buyer have no control over the operation or promotion of the thing that you are buying. But I think it may be tough to argue in court from my non-legal perspective that stablecoins promise any kind of profits by the issuer, because technically stablecoins pegged to the dollar should always be worth $1. That's like the point, right? So why is the SEC saying that BUSD is a security then? Well, I am not privy to the SEC's internal conversations, but I suspect that it may have something to do with the fact that I mentioned earlier about who owns BUSD and, more importantly, why they own BUSD. Binance owns the vast majority of BUSD in existence. I'm guessing near 100% when you look at all the indirect ownership. And of course, BUSD has no investment value in itself. So nobody would go and buy BUSD as an actual investment just to hold it for 10 years because you would get no return and you only have the risk of Paxos going bankrupt. It makes 0 sense to actually just buy BUSD. So I guess the logical implication there goes something like this. The vast majority of BUSD is bought and held on Binance, with a big chunk of it sitting on other chains than Ethereum. But ultimately, the only reason that people buy it in the first place is so that they can go and buy all the degenerate shit that you can buy on platforms like Binance. All of the shit coins and the shit tokens named after fluffy dogs or NFTs, an entry in a database that has a URL that points to a picture of a monkey wearing a funny hat. So BUSD's sole purpose is to enable you to buy something from that pile of garbage. And unlike BUSD, that pile of garbage does promise returns. I mean, just go and look at the promotion for any of this crypto junk, promising to take you to the moon with 1 gazillion% return in the next 3 months. Enjoy staying poor if you don't buy into the latest fad. So I guess in the eyes of the SEC, BUSD is just a front. It's cloaking. It's a gateway for people buying these promises of getting rich quick. But this is the step before that they have to do in order to enable them to go and buy those things from the bunch of morons living in their mom's basements who are basically committing fraud openly by promising these ridiculous returns in the first place and selling hot air. This entire industry is preying on the vulnerable. It is disgusting. It is despicable. It's preying on people in financial hardship. It's preying on people who want a magic way out of their financial trouble, out of their difficult lives. People who work 3 jobs and still can't pay the rent or put food on the table for their family. And then there's a degenerate clown on YouTube or on fucking Twitter saying that if you go and invest in the latest flocky fuck you, or buy this JPEG, you will get rich in no time, so go and do it. And I guess it will be interesting to see if this does go to court, and if it does, what happens and which side the court decides to land on. But at the end of the day, I don't actually even think it really matters. This, I think, is just step 1. After what we saw in the 3 years since COVID arrived, I think it is becoming more and more clear that something really has to be done about this industry that is basically one giant scam fest. I mean, it was patently obvious at the time that a URL of a JPEG of a monkey wearing a funny hat is not, in fact, an appreciating asset that will be worth millions in the future, but is in actual fact a fucking joke. But it sounds like the regulators have finally woken up from their self-induced coma and are now going to do something about it. And Binance, being the biggest exchange in the world, seems to be target number 1, naturally. I am guessing that whatever happens with Paxos is probably going to take forever, as big legal fights tend to do, and the outcome is far from certain. But Binance, just like most other crypto exchanges, is an enabler of the trading of dog shit. They actively encourage and promote people to invest their hard-earned money in unregulated Ponzi schemes. They make fees from people putting their life savings into the latest pump and dump crypto token. And while those investors lose everything every single time one of those things inevitably collapses, Binance just keep on sitting there being the middleman, promoting the next scam and collecting their next paycheck. And the problem with imbeciles who think that they are above the law, who think that promoting scams is okay because, people should do their own due diligence, bro. The problem with these lowlives is that karma has a funny way of coming to kick their ass so hard they will have decades to ponder how epic their scam business was, staring at the 4 walls of their cell. And I'm hoping that that moment comes sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think definitely the last bit of that was him, purely passionate.
Hey guys, it's Sasha. Tesla
going against all these scams. And again, and now we're gonna go into this article from an executive from Binance who's basically worried about regulation. But again, who are the main people that these altcoins target? As he explained, as we talk about here all the time, as all of you, I'm sure, have seen on many other shows and come to the conclusion yourselves, that for the most part, the altcoins are just a bunch of pump and dump schemes on platforms like FTX, which is now obviously down, and Binance, which has all types of issues that we've already talked about and that he discussed in this video as well. You're not going to be able to exist if you don't have people on those platforms trying to get rich quickly, because if you're not investing for the long term, if you're not investing conservatively, and then it's just a gamble. That's all it is, So the bigger issue with these platforms is that they do what they're not supposed to be doing in terms of reaching into their liquidity pools or just flat out stealing people's money. So again, now we'll go over this. Binance's all these ads. Binance's chief strategy officer fears strict U.S. crypto regulation could choke out the industry and cause real market volatility. Like, what are you talking about? It could cause real market volatility. The market is already incredibly volatile, mostly due to the fact that y'all motherfuckers is always scamming people. You know what I'm saying? So again, it kills me when people say like this. It's like, well, if you think it's bad now, just wait until they regulate it. Like, what are you talking about? And then they'll compare it to stuff like, the banking system, which absolutely has its issues, but this type of shit isn't happening in the banking system, not only because it's regulated, but because it's bad business. Nobody would fucking, no one would trust banks at all, to the point that motherfuckers wouldn't use them if they were just out here losing everyone's money left and right like people do with crypto. It's not the same. It is not the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, do people scam? Is there a lot of financial fraud that goes down with the US dollar and with real government-backed currency? Yes. But the reason everyone recognizes the dollar bill as money and motherfuckers don't recognize crypto as money is because the US dollar and other government-backed currencies are more reliable, they're more stable. That's just what it is. So again, it's like, what world are you living in to where you can even say something like this? It's so ridiculous. Like, these people who are supposed to be such brilliant math nerds who are here to deliver us from evil are really just a bunch of low-life fucking con artists. Because anytime you say anything about this goofy ass dude, because he thinks he's so cool now because he's got all this money and shit, but you're not cool, bro. You know what I'm saying? Motherfucker, when people ask you questions like, well, Binance says that they, don't have anything to do with BUSD, but it looks like y'all own all of it. So how do those two things, really coexist with one another? Oh, well, you're just poor. And if you have a poor person's mindset, like, that shit is lame, bro. Like, that shit is whack. And y'all have all these problems, and then you still sitting up here like, oh, we know something you guys don't. Like, no, you motherfuckers are just fucking greedy. Nerds, you may be. You know what I'm saying? Really good at math and science and shit, you may be, but you're still just a greedy scumbag. You're not smarter than everyone else. You're really not. Okay, so the biggest risk to cryptocurrencies isn't another exchange imploding or multi-million-dollar hack. It's regulation. At least that's what Patrick Hillman, chief strategy officer at the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, said Monday. Hillman argued that U.S. crypto regulations are becoming increasingly strict and misguided, which could cause some real market volatility and even choke out the industry. The U.S. highway has always been a place that has really fostered great innovation. Unfortunately, I think what we're seeing now is going to come at a real cost to investors over time. Right. U.S. regulators have stepped up their enforcement of crypto regulations in the wake of the collapse of FTX last year, once the world's second largest crypto exchange. In January, the Federal Reserve Board, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Sorry. Breaking news. I had to see what it was. I don't care about it. And in the weeks since, the Securities Exchange Commission has dished out 7-figure fines to celebrities who promoted cryptocurrencies and clamped down on staking features where users earn rewards for holding certain cryptocurrencies. The crypto exchange Kraken was fined $30 million for improper disclosures related to its staking feature earlier this month. And again, it's like there's multiple exchange platforms that have gone down in flames, and even more crypto coins and tokens that have gone down in flames. We're like, oh, no, we don't need regulation. That's why we started this whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Because regulation is just bad inherently. But look at you motherfuckers. Binance's Hillman is particularly worried about increasing regulations against exchange tokens, which are used to facilitate transactions on crypto exchanges and stablecoins whose value is pegged to an external asset like the dollar or gold. What, like, how can you be worried about something like that? Because stablecoins are supposed to be stable, and oftentimes they are not. So, we don't, it's so ridiculous. Okay, so what are some of his comments? Because I don't really want to read through all this shit. When you take that away, okay, so here we go. When you take that away from users at a time like this, that safety net disappears, Hillman argued. At the same time, we're seeing a pressure campaign on U.S. banks to also not service crypto. Not only do investors not have the ability to move their money to a safe place, they also aren't able to pull it off the exchanges easily. I mean, this shit is just goofy, man. It's just fucking goofy. Like, you have a job and you're trying to protect it, and I feel you, but it's like, when the whole industry is just riddled with con artists and scammers and fraudsters. How can you say at this point, like, no, we don't need this? You know, it's just absolutely ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous.